Welcome to BBC London. Coming up this Wednesday evening. Told their water supply has been contaminated, the hundreds of residents in East London having to rely on bottled water.
And it was only after we started to get the notices through that I noticed I'd been feeling a bit nauseous, and I wondered, is it that? And they've still not told us what the chemical is.
We find out what the developer and Thames Water have to say. Also tonight. What are the rules around dog walking in your borough? The Londoner calling for consistency across the capital to make it safer. Plus,
it's Dom, right? I'm Yaz.
Nice to meet you.
billed as a love letter to South London. We talk to the stars of the new rom-com, Rye Lane, and the premiere is in Peckham. And snow or no snow where you live. With freezing temperatures expected overnight, we'll bring you the latest forecast. Good evening and thanks for joining us. It's perhaps something we all take for granted, turning on the tap for drinking water in our homes. But for hundreds of people living in a new block of flats in Hackney Wick, not so. They've had to use bottled water after their supply became contaminated. They noticed a chemical smell before the developer confirmed that it wasn't safe to drink. One of the residents, Rebecca, got in touch with us at BBC London to share her story, as our correspondent Carl Mercer reports.
Modern-looking flats, but not delivering a very modern service.
Okay, let's get some water.
Let's get two.
This is now the daily routine for Rebecca and Ian. The water in their flat and hundreds more in 4 new blocks deemed unsafe.
It says, "Red, do not drink your tap water," and it tells you all the things you can't do. Not even after boiling the water, not to brush your teeth, with anything. You can only use it to flush the toilet and to have a bath.
The problem started a week ago.
Just really strong smell in here. As soon as you open the door, it kind of came through the whole flat.
I was probably more worried than him about it, what it could mean, and that sometimes you could have something and it might not. There could be like longer term effects that don't show up to start with, and it was only after we started to get the notices through that I noticed I'd been feeling a bit nauseous, and I wondered, is it that? And they've still not told us what the chemical is.
We had no idea. I think it was probably a few days. And we were still using the water, you know, for the kettle and whatnot, without really thinking about it. Like we didn't even know the water was contaminated.
The problem, it seems, is not with supply to the flats, but may be linked to building work and the building's own water tank. For now, Thames Water is delivering bottled water to the flats. In a statement, the developers, Taylor Wimpey, said,
"We are sorry to hear of the water supply issues and sincerely apologise to residents for the inconvenience caused. We are urgently investigating the cause of the problem."
Thames Water found hydrocarbons in the water and is analysing new samples taken from the flats. It said,
"We would like to reassure customers that we have consulted with the UKHSA and that levels in samples taken from the development are well below those likely to cause ill health. We are taking all reports of ill health very seriously and would recommend anyone with health concerns to consult with their GP."
Meanwhile, it could be another week before Ian and Rebecca have to stop doing this. Carl Mercer, BBC London.
And by the way, if like Rebecca, who got in touch with us, you've got a story you'd like us to look into, you can get in touch on email. It's hellobbclondon@bbc.co.uk. You can see the address there. Now, if you live anywhere near Windsor, this is what you woke up to. But of course, not everyone saw such wintry scenes. However, with freezing temperatures expected overnight in some parts, people are being advised to check on vulnerable neighbours and relatives. Many of you have been getting in touch with your pics. Here's Jim Weeble.
It was puppy love for the snow in South Bermondsey this morning. This little pooch had never seen it before, excited by the strange new white world. Not quite the same novelty for most Londoners, though. In Brixton, those making their way to work were facing up to a blizzard. Some happy to be in the warm of the office.
Well, I'm lucky we're still both working full time, so it is a little bit easier because we're at work all day. but some weeks it can be a struggle with weather like this.
Just saving energy, you know. I don't use central heating on. That's it. I just on the electric fire only when I need it.
From Biggin Hill to Barnet, London and the surrounding counties woke up to a blanket of snow. Some of the heaviest falls were in Surrey. This postbox near Guildford with about 5 inches, showing how heavy the snow had been there. Several schools in the county also closed, with others delaying their opening times. Heavy falls in Windsor too. In many areas, the snow, though, was only fleeting. But it may not be over just yet, with the possibility of more in parts of the northern home counties. But it seems for most of us, the snow will turn to rain. Jim Weeble, BBC London.
And as we saw, a changing picture in and around the capital. Let's join our reporter Harry Lowe now, who's in Hertfordshire. Oh, hi, Harry.
Hello, Riz. Yeah, very much a changing picture. We've seen snow, sleet, hail and driving rain as we've travelled around Kent, Surrey and parts of the capital. We've seen anything from a thick blanket of snow to a light dusting. The last time that London saw significant settling snowfall like this in the month of March was 2018, and that was caused by the mini beast from the east. That said, the impact today has been much less significant than what we saw in December, when much of London's transport was brought to a standstill by a series of heavy rainstorms. However, there have been dozens of delays and cancellations at London's airports. Heathrow, Gatwick and City all impacted. Some schools have closed, but most remain open, and the councils are working around the clock to clear pavements and streets, according to the local government association. And we've actually seen some salt spreaders on the M25 behind us already. The advice, as you can imagine, is to check before you travel, and my advice to you would be, if you have to, you wrap up warm.
Yeah, and stay inside. Do get inside. Harry, thanks very much. Now, as you may have heard, there's been an increase in the number of dog attacks in the past 5 years, with the Met saying it's seen an 83% rise in out-of-control dogs causing injury. Last year alone, they seized more than 1,100 dogs and spent almost £1 million on vet and kennel bills. After the death of a dog walker in Surrey this year, one Londoner is calling for more safety rules, as Olivia Dimitriades reports.
Good job. A common enough sight in London parks. Bodie, Eric and Pepsi on their daily stroll in the hands of dog walker Hayley. But it's an industry that's been thrown into the spotlight since the fatal attack of Natasha Johnston in Caterham in January.
Just disbelief, really, like to think that you just go out to do your job, the job that you love, and to not come home is just unbelievable to think that that could happen.
Rules vary from council to council. With a licence, just up the road in Tandridge, Hayley can walk 6 dogs, but in Croydon, she can only walk 4.
What potential issue you've got is that people will just move from different areas to different areas at the moment because each council has different licences or rules, as opposed to a unified set of guidelines or set number of dogs that have to be can be walked.
Hayley's been a dog walker in Croydon for 15 years. The industry is not regulated, something which she believes needs to change.
If we was to be regulated, there'd be a list of basic rules and regulations that we would then have to abide by, such as insurance, canine body language, first aid courses, an appropriate amount of equipment that you would need on the walk. And I think those sort of things would then make sure that everybody is being safe in the environment.
One council that's reviewing their terms and conditions this year around public safety is Richmond.
When something horrible like that happens, it does make you feel very concerned, and it does make you look at whether what you're doing is correct. And our prime concern is to make sure that people in our parks and open spaces are safe and that the parks and open spaces are looked after. So it does make us think about how well we're doing that.
Councils like in Richmond have public space protection orders, which are a broad range of powers to help tackle antisocial behaviour.
There are rules around dog fouling, exclusions from certain areas including play and sports spaces, keeping your dog on a lead in a restricted area, and there are rules around multiple dog walking. For example, here in Richmond, you need a licence to walk more than 4 dogs, though this varies from council to council, and your dogs must be kept under control.
Here. And if a dog walker is found to be breaking these rules, they could be issued with a penalty. A Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs spokesperson said,
"Whilst dog walkers are not currently subject to any national limits on the number of dogs they can walk at any one time, they must be in full control of their animals and comply with local authority and insurance policy rules."
But Hayley says the responsibility also lies with the owners.
I think if there was a nationwide list of rules and regulations that people had to abide by in order to use the public spaces but also do so professionally, it would ensure that everybody's safety.
Olivia Dimitriadis, BBC London.
OK, a quick look now at some of the day's other news. Some of the next week's rail strikes have been suspended after the RMT union agreed a new pay offer from Network Rail. Members had been due to walk out next Thursday and Saturday. Passengers are advised to check with their train company. However, the tube strike is still on. 2 men have been arrested on suspicion of murder following the fatal shooting of a 24-year-old in southeast London last month. Officers were called to Pembroke Road in Erith on the 9th of February after reports that shots had been fired. Kai McGinley from Southwark was found with a gunshot wound and later died. The civil aviation regulator has told Heathrow it must charge airlines around £6 less per passenger to use its services. The airport currently charges airlines around £31.50. It had wanted to put that up to fund improvements, but the regulator says it must drop to around £25. Heathrow says the decision makes no sense. And children up to the age of 14 in Westminster will be able to receive a free school dinner in an expansion of the free school meals programme by the borough. The announcement builds on the free lunch programme for Westminster primary pupils announced in January. Now, an update on council tax bills. It's the time of the year all boroughs are agreeing how much to put it up by, with Croydon proposing the highest at 15% for residents, which was voted down by councillors last week. Well, tonight it's being presented again, and our political editor Tim Donovan is outside the town hall where the meeting's taking place. Tim, just give us the latest.
Yeah, Riz, all councils must by law set a budget around this time of year. Why the protesters are here tonight is because of the mess this particular council has got itself in, a debt of £1.6 billion. There are no easy options. Interest payments alone next year will be £30 million. There are more than £30 million of cuts already proposed. But what has been really controversial is this proposal, as you say, of a 15% rise in council tax. That would mean a rise of £235 for the bandy household here, taking council tax for the average household to £2,239. But the Tory mayor here, who had this defeated last week, has come back tonight with exactly the same proposal and says he'll sit there in that meeting effectively until it passes.
Frankly, there are no alternatives. This isn't a decision that's been taken lightly. It's not a decision I'd like to be making, but it's the reality of where we are in Croydon. We've got this £1.6 billion worth of toxic debt that we do not have the assets to support. We need to get our finances back on track here in Croydon, and unfortunately a 15% increase is one step towards moving in the right direction.
What the mayor claims here is that the government might be prepared to write off some of this enormous debt, but only if he takes this difficult decision to put up the council tax by this amount. Labour councillors who voted it down last week had their political moment, if you like, but they haven't actually come up with an alternative that can be voted on, and officials at the council here have been warning councillors of their legal responsibility to set a debt. If they don't, they can actually sometimes be personally liable. And so with that hanging in the air, it looks as if the Tory mayor here may finally get this passed tonight.
OK, Tim, thanks for bringing us up to date there. Our political editor, Tim Donovan, in a rather wet Croydon. You're watching BBC London. Still to come tonight. We meet the visually impaired pianist whose life changed after playing at St Pancras Station.
And where else to have a premiere for a movie called Riley, but right here on Riley in Peckham. I'll be speaking to the director and local girl later in the programme.
All sorts of events have been taking place in and around the capital to mark International Women's Day, to celebrate the achievements of women. You've probably seen lots on social media too. Well, our reporter Nikki Ford is here and you've been checking them out. Each year, we should say, a different theme.
That's right, Riz. So this year, the focus is on equity. By that, they mean inclusiveness, which means challenging gender stereotypes and calling out discrimination. And as you say, you can't really miss it when you look at social media. The International Women's Day has a huge following. So we've been having a look at what some of the posts in London have been saying. Some are posting in solidarity with women living in poor housing conditions. Others are discussing the achievements of our female scientists. And it also seems fitting that the original women's rights campaigner Emmeline Pankhurst made an appearance, or at least a new waxwork of her did, on the 120th anniversary of her suffragette movement.
Outside number 10.
Outside number 10, exactly. And staying with history, I saw an interesting tweet about Waterloo Bridge, which was built largely by women because the men went off to fight in the war, and it's earned itself the nickname the Ladies' Bridge, and apparently it's the only one to come in on time and on budget. So we went along to the South Bank nearby to talk to a business owner who works alongside other female business owners.
I personally think it's a nice thing because we're quite supportive of each other. So like if we have a good day or a bad day, we tell each other. And also because we were craft, we can sort of bounce off each other for ideas and support. International Women's Day means support us women, that we can just do everything.
A businesswoman there. What about people, on the streets of London?
Well, I happened to see two young women who were on a march for International Women's Day. They were trying to raise £5,000 and I asked them what motivated them to turn out in the pouring rain.
It's so important to be out celebrating it and celebrating women.
This year's theme is equity. What does that mean to you in particular?
To be honest, the theme is kind of passable for me. It's about celebrating everything we've done in the past, but also looking at every single step we have to take in the future. We have a long way to go, but we should take a moment to sit and celebrate as women everything we've done in the past.
The weather wasn't that kind, though.
No, it wasn't, but they did finish their walk, I understand. But just a final note to say that this isn't really about excluding anyone. There is also an International Man's Day, and that's on November the 19th, and that there is to celebrate the positive value that they bring to the world too.
And of course, everyone is part of the conversation, aren't they? Nikki, thanks very much. International Women's Day there. And of course, you can read more about International Women's Day, including the launch today of an exhibition of photos of former inmates from Holloway Prison, which organisers hope will challenge reductive stereotypes. You can find that on our website, the address just coming up there, bbc.co.uk/London, or of course you can use the BBC News app. Next, to an inspirational 18-year-old whose life completely changed after playing the piano to passengers in St Pancras Station. Anastasios, who's visually impaired, had been sleeping rough in London for 2 years. Alex Thorpe went to meet him and the woman who heard him play, now his girlfriend.
I know that a lot of the music that he's writing does come from his pain and also comes from his love. I can just lie on the church floor and just listen to him play.
18-year-old Anastasios has a brain tumour and has lost most of his vision. He slept rough in London for nearly 2 years before meeting his now girlfriend in St Pancras Station.
It was at the communal piano and I think everybody's minds were just blown. His hands just move around the piano like a force of nature.
Anastasios, who is originally from Athens in Greece, moved to the UK, but says he became homeless after falling out with his family.
I was sleeping in the benches. Sometimes, mostly in the summer, I was sleeping in the Hyde Park, in the Holland Park. When it's raining, the train from Paddington to Reading or Oxford, back again.
At the age of 2, he was given just 6 months to live. And despite losing most of his sight, he taught himself to play the piano.
I believe that there's something that we can do. I'm not sure what, but you've been praying all this time and you're still here. He said that you had 6 months to live, but you're still here, so clearly your prayers, they mean something.
Anastasios and his girlfriend there. OK, let me take you to the movies now, and the new rom-com that's billed as a love letter to South London. Rye Lane, named after the bustling neighbourhood in Peckham, is having its premiere tonight. Where else but Peckham, of course. Thomas McGill has just sent this from the pink carpet.
Well, these big glitzy premieres normally happen in Leicester Square, but not tonight when we are celebrating a movie called Rye Lane. We are on Rye Lane right here in the heart of Peckham, and later on I will be speaking to the director and the lead, David Johnson, from the movie. But first, let's take a look at some clips, and also I've been chatting earlier today to some people who are very proud to work and live in this part of London.
How you doing?
Yeah, good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool.
Rye Lane, the latest rom-com to hit the big screen, and it's creating quite a buzz in the place it's about.
So what's your plan for tonight?
Oh, tonight I'm kind of excited because there was a film about Peckham Rye Lane that was done, I think, in December.
Wow.
So they're having a premiere today, so I can't wait to go.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Down at De Black Crown, it's the talk of the salon, with some hoping it can help improve the image of Peckham, a place they're proud to call home.
I believe with this film, you understand, people will see the other side of Peckham, that Peckham is not as bad as they think. A lot of people that are scared of coming to Peckham will start coming to Peckham.
Of course.
Yeah, because Peckham has actually changed. In the next 5 years, Peckham is going to be posh, maybe.
It's actually a lively place.
Yes.
And a place to be.
Joanna and Jess are proud Peckham girls, born and bred, and say having a movie crew take over their home turf was exciting stuff.
See you later, darling. It's one of the best places to be. Honestly, no day is the same here, and it's beautiful chaos. It's wonderful. It's energetic. It's vibrant. It's what we need. And we're changing the narrative. We are changing the narrative with Peckham, and this movie is a good example about the love and the passion in the community.
You cheated on Tom with him.
Oh, that hurts a little bit.
I mean, I get it. The arms are nice, but why'd she even talk about it?
Are you just going to sit there and say that to me?
Rye Lane was shot on location with many local landmarks used, but it's the pink carpet premiere at Peckham Plex that will really showcase this South London gem to the world.
It's just adding the icing on the top of the cake, innit? On top of what's really beautiful. And we can do classy, we can do bougie, bring it down to Peckham. Red carpet's where it's supposed to be, in Peckham.
Yeah!
Oh, well, so much love there for Peckham, and despite the rain, this certainly hasn't dampened the vibe down here on the pink carpet on Rye Lane, where I am joined by David Johnson, the star of the show, and the director, Rian, as well. Well, congratulations, what an appropriate name for tonight. How nice is it to be finally at the premiere of your movie here in Peckham?
Surreal, amazing, exciting, it's great, really happy.
And you were very important that you brought this movie, you made this movie about Peckham. Why was that as a local girl?
Well, that reason exactly, you know. I was born in Manchester actually, but I moved to South London when I was 12, and Brixton's been a huge part of my life, you know. It's an incredible place, and South London deserves to be represented, you know, the way it has in this film. It was really important for me.
And these parts of London, you know, sometimes get a bit of a bad sort of rep in the media. Was it important that, you know, we celebrate London and these little hidden gems that there are around?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this film is a movie about joy and happiness. It still feels authentic to a London that I know and that I grew up in, you know, so getting the chance to put that on camera feels so special. Yeah.
And of course, you know, most of the shots were filmed 2 seconds away there on Rye Lane. Do you think that added to the authenticity of it? Was it important that you shot it where it was set?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's beautiful as well. It's cheaper. We don't have to rebuild it.
Exactly. Guys, well, have a fantastic night. You know, it's a great celebration of a lovely part of London. Congratulations. Well, the movie is out in cinemas on the 17th of March.
Love it, love the people. The weather, not so much. So all this talk of the weather today, let's see how it's looking tonight and tomorrow, especially with Stav. Hi.
Hi there, Riz. Thank you very much. Yes, a wintry mix of weather. If you're up early enough today, you would have seen a scene like this across much of the capital. Some pretty heavy snow for a while, but it did revert back to sleet and then rain as we were always in the slightly less cold air. Most of the snow recently has been falling to the north of us. So tonight there will be a wintry mix, mostly of rain, but we do have a yellow warning in force for the north of our region for the risk of further snow and ice. And you can see why that weather front is straddling the south of the UK, pretty much right across London. The milder air to the south of it, the colder air to the north of it, which is why we have the yellow warning for the north of our region through this evening and overnight. Further sleet and snow here for a while, but it will tend to clear away and it's quieter for a while before we see some heavier rain spread across southern areas for the second half of the night. But watch out for ice across northern areas where we've had the wintry mix for the first part of the night. Temperatures dipping close to freezing here, as you can see from the blue hue, but a little less cold towards the south. So we start tomorrow morning a rather cloudy. It looks like we'll see bands of rain, showery rain, spreading up from the southwest. Some of it could be heavy. Don't be surprised if you hear a rumble of thunder as well with some of these heavy showers. In between, maybe some sunshine into the afternoon. But look at the difference. Much milder tomorrow. 10s, 11s there with our mild south or southwesterly winds. And it stays pretty mild and breezy for the first part of Thursday night as well. Outbreaks of rain again, some of it heavy, but notice we start to see something a bit more wintry pushing in from the northwest towards the end of the night. Temperatures coming down here 3-4 degrees. I think around 6 degrees for the capital. Now, as we move through Friday morning, that area of low pressure clears away, but as it does so, the back edge will see colder air move southwards from the north, and it'll be quite windy as well. So a cold, cloudy, windy morning, I think, Saturday. Outbreaks of rain. The winds will be quite a feature for a time as the low pulls away, and then notice there's a wintry element to some of the showers as we move through Friday afternoon because it will be colder again. Temperatures range from around 4 to maybe 6 degrees. Factor in the northerly wind, it'll actually feel a bit colder than that. A brief respite as we head into the very start of the weekend, but it won't last long. We've got more Atlantic low pressure systems and weather fronts pushing in from the west. Most of the snow, I think, will be towards the north of the UK. It'll be mainly rain to the south. But it looks pretty unsettled as we go through Sunday. Pretty deep area of low pressure there. So it does turn milder as we move through the weekend into next week, but a lot more unsettled with wet and windy spells at times. That's it from me, Riz.
Thanks, Stav. I did hear the word sunshine.
You did, yeah, you did.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that is where we leave you. Lots more celebrating International Women's Day on our social media. And if you haven't had your fill of snow pics, do check out our Facebook and Instagram. There may be some from where you live. Whatever the weather, from all of us here on the BBC London team, do have a lovely evening. Take care. Bye-bye.